Can't start early, folks, sorry. More seconds. Take a deep breath. Or a few. This is statute, got to play by the law, folks. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, April 25th, 2019. The time is exactly 9 a.m. Calling this meeting to order. And the first item will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Sandy, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the first item is a public hearing, but before we go into our public hearing, which is regarding our fee schedule for community development, I'm polling for conflicts of interest. Do we have any?
None.
No.
Okay, none for me. Moving right on. And so, attending our commissioners, Duncan and Filios in person. Commissioner Bill Brooks is attending by his hospital bed. He is entirely lucid. He did have surgery yesterday, so, but he's perfectly fine and ready to go, okay? So the first item is a public hearing, and that is resolution number 2018-44, Community Development Fee Schedule. Director Callahan, would you please lead us?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. On the screen I have, and we can go through all of the proposed fees, but let me give you a brief moment of context. This is necessary in part because of your decision to amend the opt-out program. That requires that we change certain fees, eliminate certain fees, and add certain fees. All of that is, I assume, spelled out for you sufficiently, but of course we can talk about it if you have questions.
Okay.
What's not so obvious, and the part that I actually asked Dina to attend today, and she graciously did, is that I have asked that we bump things up 5% across the board because in 2015 we had an audit that brought to light that we're behind the 8 ball, if you'll pardon the metaphor, of our fee schedule. I know that at least for some 13 years we have not actually updated like this all of our fees. And so it must logically follow that if we haven't updated the fees in 13 years and cost of living and consumer price indexes and other similar indices show that costs have risen, we must be behind. I assume we're more than 5% behind. There may be some few of these that are off. That's the sort of thing we as a staff really need to drill down on and haven't yet. But I believe it's safe to assume that in general we can go up 5%, as you have seen here, to cover the fact that we are behind on our overall fee schedule. Does that give you enough of background? That's really what I wanted to discuss about this today. And John Mills knows the details on building permit specifics, should you have any questions.
It looks to me, as I peruse the fees, that for the most part it's 5% across the board,
Yes,
with a few exceptions.
Yes, sir.
And you say that we haven't had a fee increase in 13 years.
At this level, where we've done a blanket approach to a great many things, we have had incremental things like, the one that comes to mind, I think it was a year, possibly 2 years ago, I asked to increase the number that we pay our hearing examiners. It was abysmally low before. Now it's closer to what a planner makes in processing this. that's the sort of thing we've incrementally done along the way, but by no means have we done it for each and every item as you see here. You see the difference?
Okay, yep, yep. Leslie, any questions?
No, just, I believe that staff is going to go through and make sure that the fees being charged are not more than the fees required, or that,
You
per
have my
statute.
commitment that we're gonna do another round, we'll come back again sometime in the future. The auditor staff will help us, we'll get a more precise view of what, by way of example, it actually costs us for Ben or Vlad to do a project.
Okay.
And that way we have a real world view of all of their costs for overhead and everything else and how that compares to the number that's before you today. But we're just not there yet.
Sure.
So then what possible action would we take today?
Today
Simply
would just be-
authorizing you to,
You need to choose. Do you want to increase the 5% like you see on the screen, or do you
Okay.
want to stay with our current fee schedule? You can do either or, but you've got to do one.
okay, okay. Bill, any questions?
Well, comment, I was looking at Facebook today, and one of the things that was like a rash all over Facebook was how, because the commissioners eliminated the opt-out, the fees would be going up. And I just want to make it clear, or at least ask Director Callahan whether, in fact, the opt-out is the sole reason that we're increasing fees, or, I mean, I think the two should be two separate items.
Please, go ahead.
Bill, I agree completely that they are separate items. I thought it was timely and convenient to ask for a 5% increase now, since we have to do a fee schedule anyway, that if you remember my opening remarks, because we have to change some fees, add in some fees, take out some fees. Since we were doing that. Okay.
I understand. I think that's very clear, and I have no problem with that at all, David. I have a problem with people trying to link the two as the reason fees are going up is because we've eliminated the opt-out. It's that simple, and it's not that simple.
I think you have just stated perfectly for the record that these two things are unrelated.
Okay, thank you.
And I can add to that, that as a member of the prior board, when we discussed fee schedule, the general sentiment of that board was for you to increase the fees, and that it was in fact independent of anything to do with the opt-out. I think the general consensus was that the fees were low and hadn't been raised in some time. Okay, any further questions for staff? Okay, so moving on to public comment. And we only have one, and that would be Summer Bushnell.
You already answered it, so I'm good.
Okay.
You're okay?
Yep.
Okay, but just for the record, you were opposed to the fee increase.
But I didn't understand that there were other
Okay.
issues involved. I thought it was
Fair enough.
an excuse to raise fees, and now I understand
Okay.
that there's more logic behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion to end public comment and enter into deliberations?
Sure, I move that we close public comment and enter into deliberations. Or close the public hearing.
Yeah,
I second the motion.
the motion was made.
Okay,
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
aye. So we are now in deliberations. Questions, concerns, thoughts, anyone?
I mean, my concern is that the timing does look very poor. You know, fees haven't been raised in 13 years, and now all of a sudden it's like something's being taken away, and then we're saying, but now we're gonna charge you more even though we took it away. I happen to agree with the 5% increase, just because we haven't increased fees, and I would hope that, you know, I have commitment from staff to review to make sure that none of the fees we charge are actually indeed more than it costs community development to actually provide that service. So I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. Bill, thoughts?
I'm comfortable with the 5% also, And it is in a way unfortunate that they're coming at the same time, because there are those who would intentionally distort and misinterpret. At the same time, I'd like a commitment from staff that if we find that 5% is not sufficient to cover the actual cost of doing business, that Director Callahan bring that to the board and let us take a look at what he would recommend in terms of increases.
And I think I would second both and add that statutorily, and Pat, please opine here if I'm wrong, Director Callahan and staff really, we cannot be making a profit on these fees. They have to be directly related to the cost.
Excuse me, that is absolutely correct, and that's
Okay.
why it's so critical that he is working with the auditor's office, Dina and her crew, to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay.
And so, and of course, I know David has committed in the past and has committed now on the record to continue to look at this and adjust fees, recommend adjustment of fees as necessary.
Okay.
And also, one other comment on the combination of the two is that I think the only idea was just to have it in one resolution, for efficiency purposes, and not to try to obfuscate anything.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, can we entertain, so the motion would be really to affirm the resolution
Adopt the resolution as presented.
as presented, okay? Do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2018-44, the community development fee schedule as presented.
I second the motion.
Is it,
Oh, did you?
I think the resolution number was wrong.
I think it's 2019-35, isn't it?
2019-35, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
2018-44 was the fee resolution currently in
okay,
effect, so
I got it.
we would just
Okay.
need the motion to be corrected.
All right, I ask that the motion be corrected to indicate resolution number 2019-35.
Me too, and I'll second it.
Commissioner, Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios,
Aye. Resolution 2019-35 is adopted. Thank you. So moving on, so then that ends the public hearing section of our agenda. So moving on to deliberations. And that would be, okay, let's,
There, that's it.
are we therefore ready? Black?
Just pulling up the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. This is case number CUP 18-0008 by Lima Properties LLC. I'd like to ask the board, how much detail would they like for me to address as introductory to their deliberations? Because this request has been heard once by the hearing examiner, and also the board held a public hearing on this matter on April 10th, and based on the direction of Commissioner Duncan, a motion was made to postpone the deliberations till today's date. I do understand that Chairman Philios was not available, so at his request, if he so desires, I can go through the PowerPoint presentation to bring everybody up to speed, or at least bring up some of the ongoing nuances with this project.
Okay. I did listen to the audio in its entirety yesterday, but how long is the PowerPoint?
It's probably about a dozen of slides. It
Yeah.
shouldn't take more than a few minutes.
Proceed. Go ahead.
The applicant is requesting a mini storage warehouse facility in a rural zone consisting of 5 acres. The subject property is located just south of City of Athol. It's located in the Transitional Comprehensive Plan designation, and it's in the rural zone just directly to the east of Highway 95. As you can see, this is the vicinity aerial map of the subject site. The property abuts Highway 95 to the west, and it does not have a direct access off of 95. I want to make that very clear. That was one of the discussions that was made by the public and also by one of the commissioners. Access to the subject property is from Sylvan Road as it curves to the south of the subject property via an access easement from the property to the south. The applicant's current request is to complete a phased development of this property in 3 phases consisting of a total of 9 buildings. There will be a maximum of 178 units. There will also be a small on-site office on the property as proposed by the applicant. The applicant was required to go through the agency review process, and we did receive comments from agencies such as the Highway District, Panhandle Health District, and the Fire Department. These are some of the photos of the property's fairly level with some sparse vegetation on site. We did receive a number of comments through the hearing examiner's review and also prior to the board public hearing. We did have a number of concerns raised at each of the 2 hearings by the neighbors who were very opposed to the request based on the compatibility concerns, traffic impact, and potential decrease in property values, a precedent setting for other non-residential uses being permitted in the future, safety for children in the area, property crime, and other non-compatibility issues. We don't have any evidence of that to be true, but I do understand clearly the concerns that are being raised, and I'd like to say that while our initial report did not address those concerns when it was forwarded to the hearing examiner, because we didn't have anything in writing from the neighbors to put it in the record, I do understand those concerns clearly after the fact of having 2 public hearings on this matter. Commissioner Duncan had requested that we include criteria for approval or denial of such a request and a motion to be made at the end of the deliberations. The hearing examiner, I forgot to mention, heard this case and recommended approval of the request. I also did provide the board at the last hearing a potential list of conditions of approval with a motion in the event they choose to reverse the recommendation by the hearing examiner and include a set of conditions that were originally included in the staff report that was forwarded based on the comments provided by the agencies. I do stand for any questions that you have at this time.
Leslie?
I'm just ready to state my case.
Oh, okay. Bill, any questions?
Well, are there other exceptions that we have made in the immediate area of this particular proposed project?
Commissioner Brooks, I'm not sure if I clearly understand the term exceptions. Are you asking, have there been any other land use applications in the immediate areas of similar in nature that were approved?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Have there been any that have been denied?
No. Not in the
Okay.
immediate area, but we do have a number of similar, if not identical, uses that are to the north of Highway 54, north of the newly constructed Super One store.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for the most part, just a couple quick, okay, so we're in a rural zone, correct?
Correct.
Property abuts Route 95.
Correct.
Why is it not commercial? Why was this maybe it's not a fair question, but for staff, why was this never zoned commercial? It would seem logical that it would be.
I can answer that.
Go right ahead. Whoever.
Commissioners, David Callahan, Community Development Director. The presumption of the comprehensive plan which drives the zoning is that we are rural in nature. And so much of the county is zoned rural or some agricultural or some zoning district that allows very low intensive uses. We have relatively few commercial and industrial zoning sites throughout the entire county. If one were to conduct some sort of rezoning concept for areas like major highways, it would make some sense to add some additional commercial sites, but no such analysis has been done. So part of the answer to your question is that what you're seeing on the screen reflects thinking that's decades old, but no one is pushed to change it. Does that help you?
Yeah.
And can Pat Brady, Civil Deputy Prosecutor, for the record, can I just add to that a little bit?
Sure.
There have been the parcels to the north, yeah, okay, there is the zoning map there. Parcels to the north of the subject that are directly adjacent to the city of Athol that, you know, are basically have been split by the new Highway 95 right-of-way. Some of those have been rezoned to commercial.
And recent.
Fairly within the last decade. And so, partly in anticipation of the highway coming through. And so, there has been some change in the vicinity, but if you look further to the south towards, you know, the end of Sylvan Road, what used to be Remington Road before before the new highway went through, that is more of appears to be more of a rural residential area, at least at this time. So I think that probably has led there to not be a push to zone those parcels to commercial.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please.
It just occurred to me, maybe part of your question really has to do with the nature of CUPs. You'll recall that a CUP may or may not be approved. It's a discretionary call in your case, dependent upon the circumstances. So regardless of whether this is commercial or not, you get to make a judgment call of whether this use fits in based on what you've heard, the evidence adduced, and whether you think it's compatible with the neighborhood. Okay?
Yeah, understood. Absolutely. You know, some questions are asked for the benefit of the general public too.
Of course.
What's interesting, before we enter into deliberations, and I'm just going to recite this, which it says the hearing body shall not recommend for approval and the board shall not approve a CUP, conditional use permit, except upon the following findings. And there are, I think, 7 of them. What the applicable procedural requirements have been met. A, B, the proposal is in compliance with the applicable standards for the proposed use without variances or with such variances as may be approved by the board. C, the proposal is compatible with existing homes, businesses, and neighborhoods and with the natural characteristics of the area. D, the proposal adequately addresses site constraints or hazards and adequately mitigates any negative environmental, social, and economic impacts. E, services and facilities for the proposal are available and adequate. F, the proposal will meet the duly adopted requirements of other agencies and jurisdictions. And G, the proposal is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan. And that basically sums it all up. Any more questions for staff? Bill, are you okay?
Okay.
Leslie?
So, in reviewing all of this, I don't feel like the proposal is compatible with existing homes, businesses, neighborhoods, and with the natural characteristics of the area. So item C that you just read, and item D that the proposal adequately addresses the concerns that would mitigate any negative environmental, social, and economic impacts. So 178 units with 9 buildings on this kind of quiet street.
Let's go into deliberation.
We are. This isn't.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, we're in the-
that's right, we didn't.
You
we
opened
didn't-
up the
I'm sorry, I'm looking for a formal motion.
Right.
I stand corrected, go right ahead.
So as it's proposed, with the number of units, with the hours, without a different access, coming through this neighborhood, I can't support this at this time.
Bill, thoughts?
Well, the people who testified against it
I'm sorry?
largely seem, I'm sorry, the people who testified against this project during the hearing largely laid their case on the fact that they moved here 20 years ago and didn't expect the area to change. And I frankly find that, not a realistic view. This area has changed. We're the fifth fastest growing county in the country. It's not going to be like it was 20 years ago. We had moose walking down our street 20 years ago. Today we don't. On the other hand, I agree with Wesley that I don't think this particular project meets those criteria for a conditional use permit, notwithstanding I'm not accepting the anecdotal comments made by the people opposed to the project at the hearing.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. I would have to second what Leslie pointed out, items C and D in the requirements for approval of a conditional use permit or CUP. That is to say, the issues of compatibility with the existing area and addressing site constraints. Additionally, what I would add is it's fascinating to me that the appellant purchased the property in January of 2018. Nothing has changed. Well, there might have been additional residential development, but the zoning hasn't changed over that period of time. And one of the things that has historically disturbed me about the way we operate in Kootenai County is we operate by exception. And the more exceptions you have, the more lack of continuity and consistency we have in our rural areas, which people have said repeatedly they would like to preserve as much as possible. If this were further north, if I'm interpreting the map correctly, closer to that commercially zoned area, I'd be hard pressed to deny it. But the way it stands right now, with the concerns about compatibility with the area, the general opposition from the public, questions about its compatibility with the comprehensive plan, I cannot support it. Do we have a motion?
I move that we deny case number CUP 18-0008, the request by Lima Properties, due to the fact of incompatibility with the neighborhood and not enough mitigating conditions.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios,
Aye. Motion is carried. Case number VAR 18-0008 is denied. So we're moving on then to item C on our agenda.
B. B.
Did I miss B? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
That was A. Yeah, okay. Why are they appearing as the same case number? Look at this. 0008? 0008?
You looks like you don't have a good
Yeah, I
copy.
think
Mine's 109.
0009, okay.
Yeah.
Apologize for that. We're moving on to VAR 18-0009. A request by Jean-Pierre Schrombach?
No.
No?
You definitely have a bad copy. Why don't you pick that copy up?
Throw that one away.
Yeah.
This is a setup, guys.
Just throw that other one away.
Jeez. Okay, hold on a second here.
page 6 of 7 will be where you're starting.
Okay. 6 of 7, all right. 5 of 7. So 0009?
Correct.
Oh, that's the variance, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. Item B. I stand corrected. Case number VAR 18-0009, a request by Patrick Magajna. Did I say that correct? Magajna? Magajna, silent J, okay? For an 18-foot variance to the 25-foot front yard setback on a parcel in the restricted residential zone. Ben, do you want to lead us?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Ben Tarbutton, Kootenai County Planning for the record. This morning we have for you VAR 18-0009, a request by Patrick Magajna. It's a very precise request, a variance of 13 feet 3 inches to the corner of the structure and 17 feet 4 7/8 inches to the eave projection. It is a required 25-foot setback in the restricted residential zone, and the parcel is located. Located at the northern part of Hayden Lake, as you see there. The parcel is located off of North Split Rock Road. It is approximately a ½ acre in size. There is an existing cabin that was built prior to the 1973, when our code was implemented, establishing setbacks. Currently is a non-conforming structure. The applicant is wishing to demolish the existing cabin and replace with a new residence. The restricted residential zone requires 25 feet from the front, which would be off of the right-of-way for Split Rock Road. Here is the applicant's site plan. They are complying with, supposed to comply with all their setbacks, with the exception of the front coming off of Split Rock Road right-of-way. Here is a zoomed-in kind of capture of the site plan. You'll see there, and I don't have my pointer with me at the moment, but on the lower corner, sorry, yeah, I guess that works too. Lower corner here is 11 feet 9 inches to that corner, which would be a 13-foot 3-inch variance request. The eave projection here, 7 feet and 7 1/8 inch. So that's the request before you. The reason that the variance includes a request to the eave projection is that our code does allow for an exception to setbacks, a standard 2-foot eave projection. Because this eave projection exceeds 2 feet, they're including that in the variance request. A couple photos of the site. It is significantly sloped, going down to Hayden Lake. Again, you can see it in their top corner here. There is the existing cabin, which is ready to be demolished. The applicant owns, and if I go back to the site plan here, the applicant does own the parcel, lot 3 here to the south.
Okay.
And the access actually extends through lot 3 to serve the proposed structure because of slope considerations. And here's a Google image just to give you an idea of the slope of the property and some of the characteristics thereof. It did go out to agency review, Hayden Lake Sewer District, City of Hayden Lake, Panama Health District, Idaho Department of Lands, all had no objections to the request. Northern Lakes Fire District, Lakes Highway District didn't have any objections either. They approved it with some conditions such as needing to comply with their standards for access. Highway District wanted to comply with their standards for the approach, and that there wasn't any conflict with the road coming into the site. The building division did submit comments as well, essentially no objections, but at the time of building permit application, they would need to comply with engineering standards because of the steepness of the site, as well as proposed retaining walls would need engineering as well. So that would all be taken care of at the time the building permits were submitted and reviewed. We received 2 comments from the public, one in support, one was neutral. The criteria for variance approvals include A, B, C, and D, which are the applicable procedural requirements have been met. An undue hardship exists because of characteristics of the site. Granting the variance will not be in conflict with the public interest. And the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the use associated with your request. We did get an HE recommendation of approval. The HE did find that the procedural requirements have been met, that there was an undue hardship with it, the characteristics of the site, given the slope constraints. They identified the existing cabin and the building envelope or the pad that exists. The applicant is proposing to put it in that same pad, so they're minimizing the disturbance by doing such. They found that it is not in conflict with the public interest and that it is the minimum variance necessary for the request. That would be the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me.
Can you just show me the entrance, how they're, no, I'm sorry, the-
Site plan?
what you were on,
Yeah,
what
the
you
one-
ended
the one
on?
you-
Yes,
yeah.
right there, yeah,
So here is Split Rock Road.
okay,
The driveway comes in and kind of makes a parallel arrangement, I guess, to the proposed structure. So there's a retaining wall right here, and if I go back to the photos, you'll see the retaining wall has been constructed. So up here, you can see the corner of it, and then here's the top, looking that direction too, so.
okay.
So, Bill, questions?
No, I don't have any.
Can you go, yeah, okay. So basically, we're diminishing the setback on the left side here?
Correct. Yeah, so they're gonna comply, or proposing to comply with all the other setbacks from the property lines. This is the request here from the front,
Got
which
it.
would be off Split Rock Road.
Got it, okay, understood. And we're clearly sloping down to the lake,
Correct.
okay. No further questions for me. Motion?
Seeing that I believe they have met all the criteria for the variance, I am asking to approve case number VAR 18-0009. A request by Patrick.
Second the motion.
Phil Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye. Motion carried, VAR 18-0009 is approved. Moving on then to item 7 on our agenda, which is signings. And
Do
so.
you need a motion to exit deliberations and enter to signings, or,
No,
okay?
it's just following the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So the first, I'm sorry, David?
Item C has been removed, I forgot we labeled it.
Yes, item C is removed,
Thank
yes,
you.
for the record, thank you. That was VAR 19-0002 is removed. Okay, so moving on to item 7, signings and action items. So I'll be looking for an order to execute the signing for resolution number 2018-44, which is the community.
Oh, it's the 1935.
Oh, that's right. It's the fee schedule, sorry. Amending the motion to read executing of the signing of resolution number 2019-35, community development fee schedule.
Okay. I move that we execute the signing, the order for resolution 2019-35, community development fee schedule.
Second the motion.
Phil Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, motion carried. Do you want us to sign first?
And then 7B,
Yes.
that order is not quite ready yet. We'll bring it back to you on May the 2nd.
Okay.
Okay. So then pursuant to Attorney Pat Braden's recommendation, item B, case number VAR 18-0008, will defer until the order is prepared and that we can execute. Moving on to item C, case number VAR 18-0010, request by John Hunt for 13-foot variance to the rear setback. Do I have a motion to execute the order of decision?
Yes, I move that we execute the order of decision by signing VAR 18-0010, request by John Hunt.
Second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios,
Aye. Motion carried. And we're executing the order of decision. So that takes us on to Roman numeral 8, which is the business segment of our meeting today. It's community development update. There is one item, direction from the board on the Omnibus 3 update, potential action item. Director Callahan.
Mr. Chairman, bear with me while I'm fumbling through. I'm trying to find the board's update file. This morning I drug into something I wanted to show you. This just looks different from mine. It should be. There we go. Perfect. Thank you, Ben. What I'm pulling up for you is what should be an easy cheat sheet. For us to discuss the Omnibus 3 update, to put us all in the same playing field. Omnibus is just a term of art that we've used to mean a collection of a good many changes to the Land Use and Development Code. We're on number 3 because Omnibus 1 and 2 came after the code consolidation of 2016. And all of these items are for the most part housekeeping with some specific exceptions I'm going over next. The previous board had asked for the Planning Commission to consider amending the Land Use and Development Code in specific ways. I'll go over them specifically in just a moment, but I want to set the context for you first. And the Planning Commission had 3, if I remember right, workshops where we went over each and every item. Ultimately, we drilled down on what I'm about to show you so that they are recommending taking out certain express provisions of Omnibus 3, chiefly because they think it's, I'm paraphrasing, but they think it's too controversial and not warranted at this time. And so the reason this is before you is so that we don't roll out an Omnibus 3 for the public hearing process that includes items that the Plan Commission doesn't agree with, doesn't want to go forward with. And I wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with taking them out too.
Okay.
That way we end up with an Omnibus 3 that's properly advertised and presumably goes through relatively quickly because there aren't controversial aspects to it. Does that give you enough of a stage?
Sure. And I think David had something to say.
And
Okay.
he
Can I
does,
just-
but I was
Oh,
gonna actually
oh,
go
sorry.
through the
First.
specific
Oh,
items,
okay, yeah.
which are on the screen.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah,
David,
sure.
to that?
Yeah, go ahead,
Is
David.
that the final omnibus that the planning commission had to review came to us in December of 2018, and the request was to have a public hearing that month in order for the previous board
Yes.
to approve it. We did not feel that the public or the planning commission had adequate time to review it and give feedback. Because the comprehensive plan is so important and we are focused on doing a comprehensive plan, there was discussion on the planning commission to delay the omnibus until the completion of the comprehensive plan. And that would have deferred this whole thing until the fall or maybe even a little later. David, Director Callahan, told us there's a lot of things that are administrative in here that would help the public as well as help his department. So what we did here is said, look, we would like to do this where it makes sense and we can get a public feedback and get a decision made rather quickly so we can get it to you by the fall. Versus having some of these other items that we may or may not agree with, but are more controversial and would delay the whole process.
and it would mean that we would have to defer this because we did not want to interrupt the comprehensive plan. So that's the reason why this is a compromise. The items that are in yellow are things that the planning commission would like to consider after, as omnibus 4 type of thing. But we just think it'll take a lot more public input to get us to a place where we can make a decision.
Understood.
When you say that the commission or committee, was it a unanimous?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which piece was unanimous?
The, taking these out?
Yes, it was, we went through each one, David and Pat gave us a background in each one of them, and it was a complete unanimous decision by the planning commission to defer, not
Right.
to necessarily not do.
Right.
Just to defer it, so we can get this done and get the good parts of this approved if the public feedback provides us that input. And then delay the other stuff until after the comprehensive plan, where we have more time to basically thoroughly vet it with the public and ourselves.
Okay.
That's good
Is that it, Dave?
context, thank you, David.
Thank you.
This first item was an idea to clarify the current code. There's actually some debate as to whether it's needed or not. I mean, this may be one that never shows back up in Omnibus 4. But I think Chairman Levine's point is still valid, that we can still discuss it in any future. But again, you've heard the recommendation to take it out. And it really, if it has merit, it's really just to streamline how we review these kinds of situations. But again, at the moment, we're just suggesting we don't need it for this omnibus.
Okay, go ahead.
Similarly, repealing the prohibitions in the ag zone, you actually just had a discussion for
I
that
was just thinking
yesterday.
that, yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that, I think everyone that's looked at this agrees would be a barn burner of a discussion. So that's why that's recommended to come out. Moving along to helipads, this is one I have to take the heat for. I've met with some people a couple of times where they happen to be pilots. They happen to own helicopters. They were miffed that I had to make a judgment call to say that it was okay for them to land their helicopter on their current property because the Federal Aviation Administration leaves these kinds of things up to the helicopter pilot. It's a discretionary call by the pilot. Our land use code doesn't prohibit it, in my view, but neither does it expressly authorize it. So that's why I had suggested putting it in here as a way to have the controversy before the public, make a decision, be done with it, so that I'm not making a judgment call. But at the moment, you just heard why we're suggesting taking it out. Does that give you enough?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Bill, are you following?
I am completely.
Okay.
Here, the previous commissioners had suggested that we take out the current regulation that allows certain properties to meet only a fire district standard for access and reinstitute a county road standard. We had a county road standard before 2016, and we purposely went to a fire district standard. We thought it was easier, more direct, and more useful. Again, this was a recommendation by your predecessors. The Planning Commission suggesting taking it out because of reasons I won't go into, but we can dialogue if you want to.
Go ahead.
And I think this is the last couple here. This would have been this expanding the subdivision process to go from what's currently 4 or fewer to up to 10 would be a very significant change in our subdivision review process. And again, it was your predecessors that asked for this. Again, the Planning Commission is suggesting not now, not this omnibus.
Okay.
And similarly, in 2016, when we consolidated the codes, we expressly took out, if I remember right, or maybe it was an omnibus that followed, but we expressly took out the bonus density in conservation subdivisions because we thought it was misleading and unhelpful.
It was
People-
actually, yeah, it was in the 2016.
It was the college, thank you, I couldn't remember, consolidation.
Okay.
So we expressly took it out, your predecessors wanted to put it back in. The planning commission thinks now is not the time, and staff agrees. This proposal by your predecessors would have increased our notice, significantly increased the cost for comp plan and rezoning changes. Presumably, we would notice, I'm just making this up, but suppose for the current update that we're doing, we would presume, if this were in place, we would presumably notice all 10,000 plus property owners, which would cost us some considerable amount of money. Because the proposal was that the county should pay for it. In my view, there's nothing broken with our notice procedures. We always get ample response to any comp plan update. And so the planning commission agrees, that's why it's being recommended to take it out now.
What, question? How do they define, or how do we define enhanced public notice?
This would be a direct mail piece to the property owner. You know,
Every property owner in
Every-
an incorporated area of the county.
Within the, oh, okay.
Unincorporated.
So that's where I came up with the 10,000 plus.
Oh, okay.
It's all the property owners in the unincorporated county. And direct mail costs what it costs. So we could spend real money every time we do that kind of notice.
Okay.
So those are all of the significant changes that the plan commission recommends to take out. You could agree with all of them, none of them, or some part of it. I'd just like to have your opinion, if you would, today, so that we can roll this out soon for a public hearing process.
If these changes are going to be brought back forth in Omnibus 4, what's that timeframe?
Haven't gotten there,
Okay.
don't know. But presumably after,
Yeah, it'd be after the comp plan update is.
so after September would be my guess.
Okay.
So you're planning four planning commission hearings, is that correct? First one being tonight?
Not hearings,
For
they're
the update, I'm sorry.
community development
Meetings.
meetings.
And that's for the
feedback
update,
sessions.
not
That's for the update?
For the update.
Oh, okay.
And we hope to we'll have them done by the end of June. We have 5 of them, I think, actually.
Right, so there's 4 after tonight.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
there's 4 after tonight,
Yeah.
okay.
total of 5.
So, go through the sequence here with me for everyone's benefit. So we have the update, we have Omnibus 3, and we have comp plan. What's the flow?
Well, the first thing to separate in your mind is this is unrelated to the update.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Are you with me so far?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a code amendment that flies on its own outside of any comprehensive plan.
Okay,
Okay. This will roll forward in the usual way, where we will schedule at least 28 days notice for a public hearing for the plan commission. And then normally we'd have another 28 days for your hearing.
for our hearing.
At your discretion, and I'm fine with it, we could sort of double notice, meaning we can schedule for the plan commission and your hearing with known days. That saves some time if you want. It's not, since I don't see this as being highly controversial, I'm fine with that. It'd be a nice way to sort of get things out of the way.
Okay,
That would be the normal rollout for this.
okay.
For the comp plan update, we have 5 total meetings scheduled to get public input. We need to be somewhat flexible based on each meeting. You can imagine, tonight we may get 3 people, we may get 300, don't know. Depending on what we get and what their concerns are, we'll need to sort of adjust as these things go. Because at some point, we'll presumably take all of that input and make any useful adjustments to the update, and then schedule for an actual public hearing where we would take final comments, and then both with the Plan Commission and with you. So that's why we're looking at October-ish before we actually finish that process.
What are the locations of the 5 hearings?
Micah Grange, Mountain, out by Metamont.
Metamont?
Missing Mountain.
Athol,
Uh-huh.
and Rathdrum, the technical college.
Parker Technical, yeah.
Here.
And here, and here,
Here,
okay,
tonight.
okay. All right.
We have a pretty good geographic
Okay.
coverage. It's not perfect, but pretty good.
And time frame for Omnibus 3?
We just talked about that.
Do it again.
That will notice 28 days, and then we could do a double notice if you want.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I got it.
Possibly have a hearing in July.
Yeah, what we would do, what we talked about doing, and again, David's 100% correct, it's fluid right now at this moment, is since the public feedback sessions are done at the end of June, we'll take that time in July to tabulate all the comments and put it in a report, and give us time to evaluate it before we finalize the proposal for the comprehensive plan. When that happens, whatever you approve, Pat can go out and make those changes. He's already made the changes, I think, to remove what we recommended. And we were trying to.
You're mixing.
Now we're
Yeah, no,
conflating
I'm
again.
mixing it up.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, all right. What we were trying to do is work this in between the finishing up of the feedback sessions and before we do the
Yes.
public hearing for the comprehensive plan. So the time frame would be, in the August time frame was what we were hoping for this, the Omnibus 3. And that's what we were trying to work, so we're trying to work this in between what we're doing.
So the Omnibus 3 doesn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, does not involve a roadshow?
Correct.
Okay.
It just merely needs a public hearing with Plan
Yeah.
Commission and you.
Oh,
As soon as we get direction here, we can notice that up for public.
And
Okay,
the tricky part is working it with the Plan Commission where they don't feel pushed.
Okay.
If it's simple housekeeping, possibly a July hearing with,
I think you've taken out the angst right now.
Okay.
In my view, I think this could roll out as quickly as we can make happen the Plan Commission agree to.
Right, and as David indicated, we've already had workshops on these other items, so the planning commission is already aware of the other items and have the information we need. So really, it's just getting it to the public because we really want their feedback.
Yeah, the final draft for, at this point is done, and it
Yeah.
incorporates all the changes
We
that,
can actually go live with that on the webpage.
yeah, like as soon as today.
Right. And please stay mindful, right behind Omnibus 3, we have a floodplain update code amendment I need in order to keep us square, if you will, with the state of Idaho. And in my view, it's relatively uncontroversial. It should be straightforward. We've talked with everyone that cares about it, but it needs to have the usual public hearing process. If I can convince the Plan Commission, I'd like to do them at the same hearing. I don't know that I can.
Yeah, that could be an uphill battle.
But I'd like to at least have the discussion, or at least have them closely behind each other, because it should be relatively uncontroversial. It's something we really have to do in order for us to stay compliant with state law.
So I guess just my concern is I haven't had a time to really go through and look at these yellow sections, which is, my fault. I didn't
Sure.
find the right folder. So as long as they are gonna come back, I'd like to have time to see, but if the planning commission unanimously said that they want to hold these off until next time, then, I guess we can go with that. But I think there's some good discussion in here with some of these things
Sure.
that you want removed, or held back, I guess I should say.
Deferred is what we.
Deferred.
Yeah, deferred.
Thank you.
Deferred would be a
Yes.
good word.
Yeah.
Bill, any thoughts?
No, everything sounds all reasonable and well thought out.
So you're looking for a motion?
Yes, sir.
to approve your recommendation that the highlighted items be deferred and that we proceed with the rest.
Perfect.
All right, I move that we approve the Omnibus 3 to go forward with the items discussed today deferred until the next omnibus change.
I would second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye. Motion carried. Public comment?
Just one
Go
staff
right ahead.
comment, but just to let you know, I did, when I went and took the sections out that I had drafted pursuant to those topics that we decided to defer, I did keep them on a separate sheet, and so they are, available to, for, whoever's consideration.
Okay.
Okay.
Point. So, that was it.
Summer, please.
Will they be available online, the updated omnibus?
Yes.
Yep.
Any other questions, statements, concerns? The time is exactly 10 a.m. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.